Question number 6, the Honourable David Cunliffe. Order. Would the Honourable David Cunliffe like to ask his question, or would he rather I went on to question 7?
Terribly kind of you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Order. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, what advice, if any, has he received outlining the effect of an increase in GST on families?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, the advice is that how GST impacts on families and other taxpayers depends entirely upon what other tax changes accompany it.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
To the Minister of Finance, does New Zealand currently, or the government, have a budget deficit? And is the government planning to increase GST? Yes or no?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, it may be news to that member. In fact, I think it is news to the member that the government does have a budget deficit. And we are not raising GST to close that deficit now. And that is what the Prime Minister stated before the election.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, I think it might be news to the Prime Minister. Mr.
Order.
Speaker,
just ask the question.
Mr. Speaker, can the Minister confirm that he told the Dominion Post in response to a question about whether he would support raising GST or imposing any kind of capital gains tax, quote, "We won't be doing that. It's not our policy," close quote?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, I can confirm that. I can also confirm that the following description was given just 6 months ago. The initial plan was right. The things we did on family support accompanying GST as a way of cutting down your huge tax rates, that was Phil Goff just 6 months ago, referring to the plans he was part of back in 1989.
Order. I'm on my feet and will be silent. Forgive me, my attention was a little divided, but I thought I heard the member's question. I'm not sure the answer bore a lot of relationship to the question. I think the only fair thing I can do is invite the member to repeat his supplementary question. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
I'm happy to ask a different one, sir.
No, I've invited him to repeat it.
Well, then I'll repeat that one. Can the Minister confirm that he told the Dominion Post in response to a question about whether the government would be raising GST and imposing any kind of capital gains tax, quote, "We won't be doing that. It's not our policy," close quote?
The Honourable Bill English.
And Mr. Speaker, I'll give the same answer as I gave before, which was, yes, I can confirm that I said that. I can also add, if I'm allowed to, Mr. Speaker, that the previous government left the economy in such a mess that we have had to set out to design a tax package that will help increase our economic performance.
Amy Adams.
Supplementary question to the Minister. Under what conditions might GST be increased?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, we are not increasing, we have not considered increasing GST for the purposes of closing the deficit that the government has, and a very large one. We have been looking, the government has been looking to increase New Zealand's long-term economic performance because after 10 years of mismanagement, we have a lopsided economy where the incentives to invest and to save are weak, and we've had too much overconsumption and over-borrowing, as illustrated by the fact that New Zealand now owes the world around $160 billion. So we would be looking at, we have proposed a package that bundles up GST, income tax rate changes and changes to the taxation of property as a way of improving the tax system and improving our economic growth prospects.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, sorry seems to be the hardest word to say.
Order.
How can the Minister say...
No, order. The member will just ask his supplementary question without adding any...
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, a reprise deserved a reprise, and it wasn't me that started reprising.
Order. The member will not now argue with the Speaker. I invite him to ask his supplementary question and do just that. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, how can he say Kiwis will be better off after a hike in GST when low and middle income earners will at best be compensated for their increased costs? And how does he expect those hard-working Kiwis to get ahead?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member will just have to wait and see. And I know it is disappointing for him that the Prime Minister stated yesterday that those lower income New Zealanders, particularly on benefits and national superannuation, will be compensated for any increase in GST. That's technically not difficult, and it is a policy objective of the government if it decides to increase GST.
Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, can he therefore guarantee that hard-working Kiwis earning $70,000 and below will be much better off in the tax package, or is his version of fairness that the Prime Minister gets a $500 a week tax cut, the average wage earner gets 35 cents a week, and the minimum wage earner gets nothing?
The Honourable Bill English.
No.
Dr Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Dr Russell Norman.
Minister of Finance, does the Minister agree that whether one looks at it from the criteria of fairness and progressivity, broadening the tax base, or the size of the revenue actually raised, on all those criteria, a capital gains tax, excluding the family home, comes out way ahead of GST on every count?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the member, as we discussed this morning at Select Committee, the government has been looking at tax changes that might meet a number of criteria, including simplicity of administration, positive impact on the economy and fairness. And in considering those in some detail, the Prime Minister stated yesterday that a comprehensive capital gains tax, along with some other options, were put off the table. I might note that the tax working group, which looked at this issue in some detail for 6 months, couldn't agree on whether a comprehensive capital gains tax would work or not.
Rahui Katane.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, what advice has he received about the benefits of introducing a 1% transaction tax, a flat tax for everything consumed, whether it be a product or service or financial transaction, and how would this impact on disposable incomes for families?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I haven't received particular advice on the financial transactions tax, although I know it has been discussed and dismissed a number of times over recent years. GST does amount to a flat tax on all consumption except for financial services and housing, rentals and interest, and as such is regarded around the world as a model of an effective tax.
Rahui Katane.
Is the Minister aware of my bill, the Goods and Services Tax Exemptions of Healthy Food Amendment Bill, and does he support the Māori Party's commitment to assist those in low-income households to purchase healthy foods?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I am aware of the Māori Party's bill, and I'm also aware of the Māori Party's views about their desire to participate in extensive discussion about a tax package. I might say I'm a bit this is an example where you need to be a bit careful about criteria. By some standards, milk and bread don't meet the standards of healthy food. So I have some people saying to us we should exempt milk and bread, and others saying we should exempt healthy foods, which may be two different groups. By and large, we favour GST staying as it is.
Question number 7, Pesata Samlo Tuiinga.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.